Welcome back. You're still watching Kenya's Choice, and my panelists here have been arguing different matters before the studio, not before court. And of course, we continue with the coverage of the mini elections that are happening in 8 areas. I'm still here with Jared Okello, Member of Parliament for is it MP-elect for Nyando constituency, not yet sworn in. Martha Wangari Gilgil and Fred Okango, who is the Secretary of Political Affairs within KANU. And we were talking about the elections that are going on today. And Jared, you wanted to add something because your two co-panelists cannot agree on where we should stop discussing matters to the presidential election of 2022.
Yeah, well, thank you. Something that you have brought, quite interesting, that up to now we are still MP-elect, yet governors have already taken oath of office. You know, our drafters of our constitution made it clear that the incumbent president, the president preceding swearing in of a new president is the one who has powers to call parliament.
Right.
So that is very interesting. And we know that somebody is very quiet somewhere. So we may be elect for a little longer. And I hope that will not precipitate a constitutional crisis. It should be 30 days upon declaration.
Right.
But the silence can go beyond 30 days. I mean, what do you do in such a situation?
Have inquired.
Yeah.
And what is the answer?
Well, we don't know. We'll cross the river when we get there.
We still have 10 days.
But what I wanted to say is that my sister is very interesting. She says if we were the one who were declared winners, then the story would be different. But again, the same is true with them now, that they were declared and they have abrogated themselves the role of defending IEBC, as if IEBC does not have a PR department to do that. So at least they are helping them, which is good, but the facts will come out, some of which we may be cited for contempt on sub judice rules. So we don't want to get there. But I wanted to say this. I was listening to your reporter from Mombasa, and he brought a very, very germane issue that it now takes less than a minute for a voter to move into the polling station, cast votes, and walk out in under 1 minute. So perhaps we may have to consider going forward for elections to be dragged, that instead of lumping up every electoral seat on one day, and there are 6 of them, we may have to do governors a separate day, MPs a separate day, so that there is also a high degree of transparency. Because crooks usually take advantage of those, chaos. You have several seats being garnered for, and you have 6 ballot papers. You had a case in Nyeri where somebody is battling a court case of having 6 ballot papers for presidential election. So if we were to drag these elections, then we may not have to get into such a situation. Now, coming back to my point about voter suppression, you understand that Kakamega, for instance, has over 844,000 voters. It was the county with the lowest turnout in the whole country at 62%.
That's not the lowest. Mombasa had 44%.
44%, but you have to juxtapose that with the total registered voters.
It is 44% versus 60%. So
Yes, 62.
The lower one is Mombasa.
Oh, yes, so I'm sorry. And then you can see the trajectory. You can see what we are talking about. That the Chebukati's action to postpone these 2 areas were deliberate. Look at Kakamega, for instance. Baba had 357,000 voters against Ruto's 140,000. So you can see Baba has 3 times as much of voters against William Ruto. So if there was a voter suppression, you can see who did not benefit out of this postponement. And therefore, I remember, Ruto also crossed the bridge. Let me assume that he did bridge, because that is a subject for contestation, that he crossed the bridge by 69,000 voters only. 69,000. And somebody has suppressed an entire county by more than 38 percentile. I mean, you can see why this election was stage managed by Chebukati to benefit other individuals.
How exactly did IBC do that?
By postponing the elections in Mombasa.
No. The ballot papers had mistakes. That's the reason the IBC cited. So how did they make that happen?
At what point did they realize there was a mistake, Sam? I mean, you cannot bring electoral materials from Greece or wherever. And they came several days before the election, you can remember. But then they sit on their laurels, waiting until the following day to go into an election. Then they say, by the way, we have a problem here. So this is a deliberate scheme, and we are not going to run away from this fact.
Because you're MP-elect, when was the pallet containing ballot papers for the MP seat in Nyando, when was it opened?
It was open, well, opening was the day, or was on the 8th. 8th, then to the 9th.
That's when
but they came to yes, but they came to Nyando a little earlier than the 8th.
So if
and they
you
must
went
have gone
to your constituency headquarters and found the pallet had been opened
right
by IBC,
right,
what would you have done? There
was a checklist from Greece or wherever received by IBC commissioners at the airport. At that point, they could have netted this kind of problem. In fact, at best, they could have detected this problem right from Greece, where the printing was carried out. But they wait until a day before.
No, I'm asking, is it possible to learn the content of the ballot papers before they are opened?
You can learn it at the port of departure, which is in Greece, and just counter-check. And if at all that was an oversight on the part of somebody, then somebody must be taken to account. Somebody has to be held responsible. Okay. Otherwise, we are going to see a repeat of the same in 2027 or even in 2032.
Okay. Martha.
You know, I think Honorable Jared has said something that we are defending IBC, and I'll say something that we said post-election 2017, because, in fact, we all should be defending IBC to that extent that we are also beneficiaries of the same IBC, because the returning officer in my area is the one who declared me elect. If they had disagreed with the RO at the point where he did not want me to be with the deputy and walked out, does it mean that what he declared then is not verifiable because the deputy did not agree with it? I think we should all be defending IEBC. And secondly, this issue of the pellets. Mm-hmm. You know, I was there when ours were opened. I would tell you, any candidate, if any candidate found any pellet opened without you being there, without your agent being there, that is why our returning officers would call us for a conference. Either you come in person as a candidate, or you send your chief agent to be able to actually be present. I personally inspected mine, even including the presidential, to ensure that they are not opened. If one seal was opened, then it was actually a recipe for chaos. So when you say that they should have checked at that point at the port, we were opening them on 8th. In my constituency, we opened with the returning officer. We broke the seal. We confirmed. If we had found them opened, then we would have questioned. We would have thought, what were you doing with our ballot papers? So I think, by all fairness, this IEBC and this time round, they have tried to their level best. It can never be all foolproof, but to a large extent, you know, over 99% is actually verifiable and free and fair. And with all fairness, it's not an easy job. I'm sure even if Jared was given that job, it would not be an easy job. But we cannot choose when we agree with it and when we don't agree with it. When it favors you, you agree with it. When it doesn't, you actually now castigate them. So I think, without going to the details in the Supreme Court, we should all actually be supporting IEBC to that level.
And Fred, clearly there's a problem, because Mheshimiwa Jared here says that they should have known what they bring into the country. What would be your specific proposals moving forward? Because I didn't see this situation in 2017 when the ballot people were coming from Dubai.
That's true. That's
company.
true.
So moving forward, what must IBC do?
That's true, Sam. Actually, we have a problem. We have a problem because IBC admitted to the error, and they say there was an error. Now, I really don't agree with what Mheshimiwa Wangari is saying, that we should support IEBC. I don't think that's the right language. I think we should strengthen IEBC as an institution. And the first point of strengthening IEBC, you have to identify the problems and speak about them. IEBC is mandated by law to ensure that they put in structures and mechanisms that will deter electoral malpractice. And in doing so, they must also engage stakeholders. Here is a case where they came up and said, we are not going to have these elections till a later date that we shall gazette because of an error. In their stakeholder engagement, and somewhere with you in this studio, and I did say that, what IBC must do, I said that I think 10 days before the election, what they must do, they must continuously engage the stakeholder and ensure that if there's an issue, they alert all the stakeholders and bring them at par with what is happening so that we are speaking in a uniform language. Going forward, Sam, I think that as Jared suggested, Honorable Jared suggested, we must stagger our election so that we achieve the principles of transparency, simplicity, accountability, and an election that is verifiable. Number two, in terms of ballot papers, I know that there were samples that were being approved by the candidate, and once they're approved, the process proceeds. I think stakeholder engagement is key going forward. You don't wake up one morning, and because as an election manager you realize there's a problem, then you communicate the problem when the elections are just about to happen. No one will believe you. So communication, IBC, in their communication, they must improve. And lastly, one thing that we also must do going forward is that how we conduct election in this country is very interesting, where the returning officers, the POs and the commission do their job, but the politicians and the public still don't believe that actually what they're doing is right. That mistrust, we must bridge it and bring everyone to a table where we can actually believe that an independent institution is actually an independent institution. Because the issue here is we don't trust as a public the issues that are happening at IBC. We don't trust IBC as an institution, not as individuals. So how do we conduct elections going forward?
Who is interfering with that independence?
That independence is being interfered with by the very, very players of the election. If you read the affidavit, and without going into the substance of the petition before the Supreme Court, if you read both the affidavits from the two factions of the IBC, the 4 and the 3, you actually notice an institution that is not independent. You notice an institution that at some point is accusing each other of having not done certain things. Then if you listened to Honorable Tuju's presser yesterday, where Tuju talked of taradiddle, I mean, if anything Tuju said is to go by, then you also notice that where is the independence of this institution? And what were they going to do, or what were they doing at that time when you have got access?
And therefore, Fred, don't you think the problem is you guys in the political class?
And I admit the political class have made it difficult for IBC to function, not only from the side I support, but also from the other side, because it is one political class. And that's why I'm saying we must ensure that going forward, in fact, post this election, have an IBC or a commission that is truly independent. Number two, we must ensure that even as we have IBC that is independent, we put commissioners and officers who are suitable and capable. We have seen from some of these affidavits, actually you doubt the competency of some of the people, not in a bad way, but because something that ought to have been done in a particular manner as per the requirement of the constitutional law is not done that way. And I want to believe that when we go through all this process, Kenyans will come to appreciate that in putting people in office, we must put people that can deliver for them, not for the politicians.
You know, it's interesting that you should say that, because over the years, over the several elections in the multi-party democracy, there has been always concerns about the independence of the Electoral Commission. Now you're saying that after this, you hope we'll get an independent commission. I'm just wondering, will you get a different set of politicians? The ones who interfere?
Just a minute. The reason I'm saying that is because look at the process of recruiting the commissioners itself. it's actually a political process. Those names go before Jared and Martha for approval in Parliament. Then appointment is done by the president. Look at the nomination. And from what we are learning today is that it is actually a political appointment. And they go into an office that they are actually supposed to be independent. That independence is watered down. So going forward, what I suggest, Sam, as a Kenyan who believes in this country, and as a Kenyan who would want to see an election that everyone believes in, when you lose, you lose, when you win, you win. We must first of all clean the mess in our electoral institutions that has been a problem all through. That can also be done at the court when they give their verdict and now recommendations going forward.
I think,
Honorable Martha, you were in Parliament when the Act was amended on how to pick new commissioners, including the formula that was used in appointing the selection panel that also included the Parliamentary Service Commission.
Yeah.
There has been several challenges in court. So moving forward, after all this is said and done, what then will you be doing as a parliamentarian to ensure that there's an attempt to bring back the reality of the I in IEBC?
I think it will not be easy to have a simple answer to that question because the issue of public mistrust in a political setup, there will always be people who will not agree with the results, because if you lose, then you feel that the commission has not been independent enough. But I think when I say support the IEBC, I don't mean that we don't point out things that don't work. That will not be helping the commission at all. And I think the issue of independence in this setup is to ensure that even when a returning officer makes a declaration and makes an announcement of a winner, we actually give them that mandate for a reason. They are the only ones who can actually make that declaration. And that's why you saw, even on the floor of Bomas, it's only Chebukati who can do that announcement. Not the deputy, not the commission, it is Chebukati. And if Chebukati was not there, then it would be a quagmire, which I would say would even be a constitutional crisis. So at the end of the day, that is why the issue of Supreme Court exists, or even any other court process, even for my position. If someone felt, I've been to court through, after election last time and after nominations, if you feel that what has been announced by the IEBC does not tally with what you have and you don't agree with it, there is an appellate system. That is why you'll go to court, and that is a constitutional right. So I think even as we strengthen IEBC and as we look into the future, and we always have this discussion almost every 5 years, and I can assure you, even now on Abu Jared, by the time we're in 2026, this will come. And my problem is that actually it comes at the sunset of Parliament, which is by design. You don't even have enough time to actually debate it because you're already going for an election. Timelines have moved. And I think what we can do as a Parliament is to ensure that we do it early enough, give even these court processes that you're talking about to be done to the end. And you cannot isolate the political players from this process. It is not possible.
Actually, Honorable Martha, it might be more urgent because there is the review of the boundaries that must happen before the next election.
Yeah.
Because you're just nearing the expiry of 12 years since the last time they were done. And also there are tenures of some 3 commissioners that are expiring in January 2023. We take a break from that conversation to cross to Kisauni constituency in Mombasa County. Statolale has shifted back to that area. It's a very small county, but very many voters said. Now you've just been able to move from one constituency to the other, from Nyali to Kisauni. You are there earlier. What do you have now?
Right now, this particular polling station seems to be busier than where we were initially at the National Industrial Training Authority in Nyali constituency, because it has a total of 14 streams. The previous one had only 6. But even more, what's interesting more, Sam, is that already this particular polling station was actually kicked off its exercise at exactly 6 a.m. It's still continuing. It has it is the largest in terms of the number of registered voters, 135,276. So in all the 6, Kisauni has the largest constituency, and that explains why already there is action here and more voters are just streaming in. But right now I just want to bring over the MP-elect for Kisauni constituency, who's just among the voters actually here at the Kisauni Baptist polling station. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana katika runinga ya Citizen. Tunaona umeweza kufika. Bado hujapiga kura?
Bado sijapiga kura. Nimekuja kutimiza haki yangu ya kidemokrasia kupiga kura. Kwa hivyo niko hapa tayari kupiga kura, na nashukuru watu katika eneo la Kisauni wanajitokeza, naendelea kujitokeza, na amani imetanda katika sehemu zote. Hilo ni jambo kubwa. Tunawaambia watu wapige kura kwa amani.
Na basi tutatembea tu na wewe ukielekea kupiga kura, tuweze kujua ama kubaini kwamba inachukua muda gani, kwa sababu mwanzo ni tu kule Nyali iliweza kuchukua tu sekunde 20 hivi, na kwa hivyo ni kama hiyo inaweza kuwa labda ni kwa sababu tu ni leo wanapiga tu kura kiti cha ugavana, ama labda ni low turnout. Wewe kwa ushauri wako?
Nafikiri sisi hatutegemei kwamba kutakuwa na milolongo ya watu kwa mistari, kwa sababu kura ni moja, na tunaomba IBC wawe na wepesi, mtu aweze kupiga kura na kuondoka kituoni. Kishapiga aende angoje matokeo. Ndio.
Na tumeweza kutukuna kuna utulivu, hatujakuwa na rabsha wowote, kujakuwa na labda ile kutolewana baina ya wale wanasimamia zoezi hili. Kila kitu kishwari, kuna usalama, na even jambo cha muhimu ni kwamba hata leo ni siku ya likizo hapa Mombasa.
Kwa kweli eneo bunge la Kisauni ni bunge tulivu. Walipiga kura zilizopita kwa amani sana, bila hata kusukumana. Watu walipendana, walipiga katika choice yao wanaoipenda, na ninategemea pia safari hii kwamba kura zitapigwa kwa amani.
Haya, tukiendelea tukisongea pale,
maana
wakazi wa Kisauni wanatarajia tu waweze tu kutazama hata viongozi wao wanavyofika hapa na kuweza kupiga kura. Bas Sam Gituku, that is the MP-elect for Kisauni constituency, now just having his details being captured there by the Kim's kit. And according to the previous the scenario at Nyali constituency, we didn't see any form of hitch in regards to Kim's kit or any identification. So just signaling that this particular exercise is just going on very smoothly. But now, right now we have the legislator representing that will be representing this particular constituency once he's sworn in before the 8th of September. That is the MP-elect for Kisauni constituency, just being among the slightly 135,000 registered voters, the largest actually in this Mombasa gubernatorial race, because compared to other constituencies like Nyali that had 124,000, 253, Mvita 118,000, 974, Likoni 94,000, 765, Changamwe the lowest actually with 93,561, and Jomvu 70. Actually, Jomvu is the lowest in terms of voter registration at 73,085. But right now, let me just go back to the MP-elect because you've not cast your vote. What are you being told? Unaambiwa nini? Kwa sababu
nimekuja hapa, hii hema ndio wakati uchaguzi uliopita nilipigia kura hapa, lakini inaonekana kwamba kumebadilishwa nambari. Sasa nimeambiwa kwamba naenda kupiga kura kule sehemu ya darasa. Kwa hivyo naelekea huko sasa.
Basi tuelekee tu pamoja, kwa sababu
pia ninawashauri tume ya IBC waweke wale ambao wataelekeza watu sehemu ya kupigia, wakae tu barabarani. Mtu akija wanamwambia wewe nenda laini hii. Asante.
Na mdada walifanya hivyo kwa sababu kumbuka kwamba kuna jumla ya vituo 14 katika tu eneo hili la Kisauni Baptist, na labda pengine tu wanaweza tu kuhakikisha kwamba kusikue na ule mchanganyiko, lakini ni swala muhimu. Lakini kulingana na Kims wanaona kwamba wamesema imechukua
kwa kweli nimejaribu hapa na ikanionyesha kwamba sipigi kwa kituo hichi, ninapiga kwa kituo chengine ambacho mimi naelekea hapo. Nafikiri si vibaya, inaenda vizuri, isipokuwa ningependa tu wale wale ambao wanaelekeza watu wawe tu katika njia ambayo watu wanaingilia ili zoezi liwe rahisi, lakini kwa sababu ni kura ya mmoja anapigiwa tu gavana, nafikiri haitakuwa tatizo kubwa sana.
Ukiangalia ile turnout ambayo ilikuwa katika uchaguzi wa urais siku ya Agosti, tarehe 9 Agosti, ukiangalia tu ukianza kuazimia tu na uangalie turnout ilikuwa aje hapa Kisauni?
Nafikiri ilikuwa si mbaya sana kwa sababu walipiga more than 40%, 48 something like that, na imani kwamba haikuwa mbaya kuilinganisha na sehemu nyingine. Na hivi leo pia na imani kwa sababu wengi wanaona kwamba kwa sababu kura ni ya mtu mmoja, huenda ikawa hakuna kiu kubwa, so wanachukua time yao polepole wakija kupiga.
Kiongozi cha kuruhusu tu uingie katika foleni na uende tu upige kura, kwa sababu hapo awali uliweza kuzuiliwa na kuambiwa kwamba uweze kupiga kura katika eneo lingine. So that's the situation here in Kisauni Baptist polling station that has a total of 14 streams, and like I said, is that Kisauni constituency has the largest number of registered voters in this particular gubernatorial race. The people you're seeing behind me are just polling clerks, but earlier on I was with the area MP who was actually being told that, right, this is where he was registered, but now he needs, according to the alphabetical order, he needs to go to another stream to cast his ballot. But of course he said that his details have already been captured at this particular point. So we're in Kisauni. Remember that also my colleague Talaki is also traversing across all the 6 constituencies. So far there's been relative peace, no incidences or issues regarding insecurity, and this has been replicated in all the other polling stations. But we're just trying our best to see if it's possible just to be at all the 1,041 polling stations. So this is the situation right now in Kisauni constituency. Everything is moving on smoothly, and we expect that this is going to be the order of the day, even as the residents and the population of Mombasa County get to decide on who takes over from the outgoing governor, that is Hassan Joho. Sam.
All right. Thank you so much, Seth Olale, for that very detailed report. At this moment, it's now 10 minutes to 8 o'clock, almost 2 hours since polling began. And of course, we're also live in Kacheliba, which is in West Pokot County. We're also live in Rongai constituency in Nakuru County. And now I want us to speak to Marian Nyambura. Good morning again. Where are you now? What can you tell us about this process as the 84,000 voters proceed to vote?
Sam, we are in Rongai constituency, one of the 11 constituencies in Nakuru County. And of course, different 197 polling stations across the 5 wards of Visoi, Mosop, Solai, as well as Menengai West and Soin. So at the moment, low voter turnout witnessed. It's just an hour, 30 minutes or so after the polls opened here in Rongai constituency. But at the moment, low voter turnout. We are seeing a handful of voters exercising their democratic rights. So this is one of the streams at Masinjeri Primary School polling station, which has 1,864 registered voters, where at the moment we are seeing the presiding officer, the clerks, as well as the deputy presiding officer and a handful of agents here to ensure that the process is seamless. At the moment, there's one particular registered voter in Rongai constituency who is exercising his democratic right. Remember the ballot papers, there was a ballot paper mix-up on the August of 9th, and today that is totally different. So what is happening is that they have their IDs, they give their IDs to one of the clerks here, which later they ensure that the data reflects on the KIMS kit. Thereafter, they're given the ballot paper to exercise their democratic right. So you can see, Sam, it's something that is happening for just 1 second, in fact, because of that particular exercise. But let me just speak to one of them who's just exercised their right. Perhaps tuanze tu na jina lako, uweze kunieleza umeamka mapema kuja kupiga kura. Je, uweze kunieleza unahisi vipi? Sasa unaona kwamba mtapata mbunge wenu bila kutaja yule ambaye umepigia kura.
Mimi mkaaji wa hapa lakini siishi huku. So nimesafiri mara 2, 3. Kama leo tena nimesafiri na nataka kusafiri kurudi. Nimesafiri wakati ile nikakuja kupiga kura nikakuta hakuna. So nimesafiri leo nipige kura na nirudi. Ndio maana yake niko na haraka lakini usijali.
Labda uniambie umetoka eneo gani?
Nimetoka pande ya Eldoret lakini mimi mkaaji wa Rongai. Lakini nimekuja kupiga kura na kurudi saizi.
Sawa.
Asante.
Asante sana. Well, some of course testimony of one of the residents of Rongai constituency who has traveled all the way from Eldoret to ensure that he exercises his democratic right. Of course, that is what we are seeing. Possibly that is why we are seeing a low voter turnout, given the fact that everyone was expecting, or the residents were expecting, to exercise their democratic right across the 6 different seats on the August of 9th. But due to this particular hiccup or the mix-up of the ballot papers, then some of them are actually having to leave different areas to come here. And that is why possibly the government even ensured that there is sort of public designated public holiday for the 8 areas where this particular election, postponed election, is happening. And that is why also we are seeing that the Ministry of Education had to ensure that measures such as the closure of schools like this one, which is Masinjeri Primary School, is closed to facilitate this whole process. So Rongai constituency has a total of 5 wards: Menengai West, Soin, Visoi, Solai, as well as Mosop wards. And out of the 5 wards are 197 polling stations spread across the different 5 wards. A total of 84,625 registered voters here. And at the moment, 3 contenders, including the incumbent Raymond Moi of KANU Party. We have Luka Kigen of Chama cha Mashinani, as well as Paul Chebor of the United Democratic Alliance. Raymond Moi is seeking a 3rd term to be re-elected. He has been the MP here since 2013. This is now 2022, seeking a 3rd term. We have Paul Chebor, who is a former Solai Ward MCA, who is seeking this particular seat for a 2nd time. In 2017, he was trounced by the incumbent Raymond Moi, and so in 2022, he's seeking to be elected for the member of National Assembly representative. Then we have Luka Kigen of the Chama cha Mashinani party, who's also seeking this particular seat. At this particular polling station in Masinjeri Primary School is where Raymond Moi is expected to cast his vote here. We were told that possibly by 8 a.m. he will be here, but that we are waiting to see, given it's just 5 minutes to 8 a.m. We also expect that Paul Chebor of the United Democratic Alliance will exercise his democratic right in Solai Ward, which is a bit far from where we are at the moment, but that will happen at around 11 a.m. Then we also have Luka Kigen, who will also cast his vote in Visoi Ward. So this is the particular situation here. Low voter turnout, but we expect possibly in the course of the day that might change, and we might see that the exercise will pick up, given that the polling stations are expected to close at 5 p.m. But at the moment, the battle at the moment, we expect that it will be between the 3 candidates. But Azimio la Umoja One Kenya, which has Raymond Moi of KANU, as well as Kenya Kwanza, which has the United Democratic Alliance, we are hoping to see who exactly will be taking the day between the 3 particular candidates. So will UDA get a 9th member of parliament elect in Nakuru County, which has a total of 11 constituencies, or will the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya get a 3rd member of parliament elect here in Nakuru County? So it's a matter of wait and see. But at the moment, of course, the election that took place on the August of 9th, we saw that for the 5 wards here, out of the 5 wards here, 4 candidates, 4 4 member of county assembly representatives come from the United Democratic Alliance, and 1 particular ward is where we have an independent candidate. So it is a matter of wait and see. We're hoping that at the end of the day, we will have the voter turnout increase as the day progresses. But at the moment, low voter turnout, and because it's just one particular election, then that means that the registered voters are walking in, and in less than 5 minutes, they are done. Once they present their IDs, once they are verified in the KIMS kit, and then given the ballot paper to exercise their right. So it's something that is taking about 3 or 4 minutes, but we'll be here to give more details in this continuous coverage of the election here in Rongai constituency.
All right. Thank you so much, Miriam Nyambura, for that also detailed report about the happenings in Rongai constituency in Nakuru County. Now here in studio, the panelists here have been telling me a lot of stories. One day, I'll tell you what they've been saying. But let's take a look at the feedback that has been coming from the viewers via Twitter, Citizen TV Kenya. This is Bob Otieno, who is saying that kudos IEBC Kenya for going against all odds to conduct the 2022 mini elections today. Anthony Khan, you're saying that solving a mathematical problem is a process that involves, that follows a formula. The formula might be right, but the answer wrong. That does not make the whole process bungled, but the answer will still be wrong. That's Anthony, quite a bit philosophical. Azimio is, this is Mushoki. Azimio is taking their secretariat failure frustrations towards IBC. The election was won and lost at the polling station. Engineer Lazaro, the ongoing accusations and counter-accusations among commissioners themselves and their controversial chairman revealing more rot in IEBC and even encouraging Kenyans to push for reconstitution or reconstitute a new credible institutions. Kipto Ruto, Chebukati had no option but to postpone governor elections in Kakamega and Mombasa. Those saying he did it intentionally should put themselves in his shoes. What would they have done? Okay, Flavian Mulama. It is unfair to blame IBC on the errors on the ballot papers when the printing company admitted the errors. And most importantly, all presidential agents visited the printing company and gave the process a clean bill of health. And Isaac Muthusi is saying that Azimio didn't have agents, and hence the reason why it was stolen isn't a legal argument. A thief cannot use lack of security to justify why he or she broke into a house. Azimio come up with something better. This is dead on arrival. I don't know whether that is true, that Azimio didn't have agents. Jared will be telling us that after the break, but also we'll be talking about the situation that members of parliament find themselves in right now after that decision by the Supreme Court that they should not have any control over the Constituency Development Fund. At the moment, it's called National Government CDF. What will they be doing as they get to Parliament in the coming days? And when should that be? We'll be asking that question and looking for answers. Stay tuned.